Hello everyone, welcome to Premades! This time we're going to go look at the second chance deck. We're near the end of all of the 10 Premades. This is It, so red and blue. And like with all of the others, they go ahead and give us all 4 of the pain lands where it deals 1 damage to target opponent, and they give us a Spire Bluff Canal. Instead of the Surveil land, where it comes in tapped unless you control 2 or fewer lands. So that's the land. Let me give you the quick. Let's go and look at this. 16 creatures, 19 non-creatures. Kind of what you'd expect. There are a decent number of creatures, but blue tends to be really heavy on the spells instead of just creature spells. And 25 lands is normal. Only 1 enchantment. It happens to be, I guess that's the same thing, right? The enchantment is the case enchantment. And then 13 instants and 5 sorceries. And that's usually the case for It. They have a high number of instants and sorceries. There's a lot of synergies that come in with that. And let's take a look. What do we got? 2 Reckless Lackeys. So 1/2 with First Strike and Haste. You can sacrifice to get a treasure token. 2 Shocks. A lot of people just run 4 Shocks. 1 X spell, Hell to Pay. I like this one. Deals X damage to target creature. Creates a number of tapped treasure tokens equal to the amount of excess damage dealt to the creature this way. So even if you could get by with just killing the creature, this one really incentivizes you to use all of your mana when you can, just to get that treasure for, a rainy day or your next big spell, that kind of thing. With an adventure here, the Aquatic Alchemist, you can cast the Bubble Up for 3. You put instant or sorcery card from your graveyard on top of your library. Nice value there. Then when you bring it down as the elemental itself, it's a 1/3. Whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery spell each turn, it gets +2. So you're basically taking a 2-cost creature, and it should be really easy to make it a 3/3 anytime that you really need to. Archmage's Newt, a 2/2. This one's kind of interesting. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, target instant or sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback until the end of the turn. Flashback cost is equal to change the flashback cost on you. That card gains flashback of 0 until end of turn if Archmage's Newt is saddled. So you could saddle it for power 3, you tap another creature with power 3, and suddenly you get a free flashback spell from your graveyard. So you can see that we're definitely delving into our graveyard in terms of finding extra value. 2 of the Razzle Dazzlers, Human Wizard 1/2. When you cast your second spell each turn, you get a +1/+1 counter, and it can't be blocked. 2 of Braids to either deal 3 damage to a creature or destroy target artifact. It's nice to see they put something in here to deal with artifacts. Demand Answers, 3 of them. Additional cost, you sacrifice an artifact or discard a card and draw 2 cards. This is the rummaging, right, that red has. Instead of just looking first and then drawing, you have to choose what card you want to get rid of first and then hope that the other cards you're drawing are better. Scalding Viper, this is a nicely designed card, especially for It, right? The Steam Clean Sorcery is only 2. You can turn non-land permanent to its owner's hand. There's going to be tons of tokens with the latest expansion, so that could always come in handy, right? Then you bring it down for only 2 mana, but it's the red mana instead of blue. It's a 2/1. Whenever an opponent casts a spell with mana value 3 or less, Scalding Viper deals 1 damage to that player. Most of your mana, if you're following a regular mana curve, most of your spells are going to be mana value 3 or less. This is going to hit a lot. Thunder Salvo deals X damage to target creature, where X is 2 plus the number of other spells you've cast this turn. Malcolm the Eyes, Flying Haste. When you cast your second spell each turn, you investigate. So already we've come upon our 3rd spell already that gives you a little advantage or incentive to cast at least 2 spells a turn. Here's another one. Slick Sequence, 2 copies of it, deals 2 damage to any target. If you cast another spell this turn, draw a card. So interesting, you got the Shock that does 2 damage to any target for just 1 red mana. You add in a blue mana, and it still does 2 damage to any target, but you get a little card draw advantage in there too. But you need to cast 2 spells for the turn. So, yeah, I think it's okay to split the difference, right? To have 2 Shocks and 2 Slick Sequences rather than have 4 Slick Sequences. A lot of times you can use the 1 Shock to fire off this card draw for the Slick Sequence. 3 of the Seize the Secrets cost 1 less if you committed a crime this turn. You'd think it would be easy to do this almost all the time, but I've seen a lot of people just pay full cost for this. Like they don't have anything else in their hand. They're trying to dig. And so they just pay the 3 just to try and go get something because they don't actually have something that lets them commit a crime. Case of the Crimson Pulse. So okay, here's the enchantment case. When it enters, discard a card, then draw 2 cards. To solve, you have no cards in your hand, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, you discard your hand, then draw 2 cards. So the whole goal of this is to empty your hand at a certain point, and with this out and solved, then you're basically just getting to draw 2 cards at the beginning of your upkeep. So that's a nice little card draw advantage, and I do like the way this case is designed, actually. 2 copies of Flick a Coin. Does 1 damage to any target, and you create a treasure token, and you draw a card, so it replaces itself. So, yeah, why not, right? It fits in just fine. Breaches the Blast Maker. This is a legendary goblin pirate. I kind of like the way they depict him setting off the dynamite there. 3/3 with Menace. Another second spell synergy thing. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, you may sacrifice an artifact. If you do, you flip a coin. When you flip the coin, you copy the spell. You get to choose new targets for the copy. So if you're doing a shock, you get 2 shocks because you sacrificed an artifact, maybe one of those treasures. When you lose the flip, it deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to any target. So, you know, you win when you win the flip, you win when you lose the flip. This is kind of... I don't like this, actually, because Wizards of the Coast decided that when they want to have variance in their card designs, that the players were protesting too much, they said, when there was a downside to the card. So they changed things a while back, a few years ago. So when they design a card that has variance, there's something small that might be good that will happen, and then something better or just as good that will happen in the other part of the variance. And I actually think I think they did that because people were complaining for mostly tournament play. But I actually really tend to like the idea of a card that has some sort of potential drawback. I've made a ton of videos around cards that have built-in drawbacks, and the whole thing is how do you game the system so that you turn the drawback into an advantage. And there's design potential there. There's creative deck construction potential there. And with this, it's just, oh, hey, if you flip a coin and something good will happen or something good will happen. It doesn't match the motif of flipping a coin, right? So I don't like their permanent policy on this. It's like they've made just this solid rule that they're not going to have any downsides, and it's a little wimping out to me in my mind. I'll get off my soapbox. Rodeo Pyromancer is 4, costs 4, 3/4. Whenever you cast your first spell each turn, you add 2 red mana, and that's now here's an interesting thing, right? You got 2 of these. You cast your first spell, then you get to add the 2 mana, then you go back to those other 4 or 5 other cards that give you synergies for casting your second spell, and you've got 2 fresh red mana to help you cast that second spell, whatever it might be. So even though it says whenever you cast your first spell each turn, the whole point of the construction of this deck is to help you with that, hey, let's make sure that you cast 2 spells and have one of these other cards that gives you the advantage from when you cast the second spell. Ill-Timed Explosion. This is a fun card. Draw 2 cards, then you may discard 2 cards. So you don't have to. You could just draw 2 cards if that's all you want. But if you got some enemies on the field, you can discard a card. When you do, it deals X damage to each creature where X is the greatest mana value among cards discarded this way. So if you draw 2, it's going to choose the larger mana cost out of the 2. I love packing my decks with the prototype cards and using a spell like this. A card I built a deck around before, Johann Apprentice Sorcerer. They give you 2 copies here. You can look at the top card of your library anytime. Love it. 2/5 Legendary Human Wizard. Once each turn, you can cast an instant or sorcery spell from the top of your library. So a couple of spells that work from getting things out of your graveyard. This one gets you off the top of your library. So you're going into a couple of different zones instead of just one with the cards in this deck. And this could potentially be really good in terms of sort of like a substitute or an alternative for card draw advantage. Instead of just drawing cards, you're like, oh, let me get this out of my graveyard because that was so useful. Or it just popped up at the top of my library. Who needs to use the cards in their hand? 1 copy of Crom Violent Cacophony, another legendary creature, zombie horror. 2/3 with flying. Whenever you cast your second spell, you put a +1/+1 counter, and you draw a card. So if he can stay on the board, he's an evasive flyer. Really advantageous. Good card. And then the scariest potential card, Melic Reforged Researcher, Weird Detective. Its power and toughness are equal to twice the number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard. This seems like power creep to me, but something else that's kind of interesting. The first instant or sorcery spell you cast each turn costs 3 less to cast. Imagine putting that together with Hell to Pay, for example, just for the first spell. And maybe if you had your Rodeo Pyromancers out, you could still tap out, cast a really big Hell to Pay at reduced cost, and then still have a couple of red mana to cast a second spell, that kind of thing, and help one of these other half dozen cards in the deck. So this, I mean, at some point, if you've got like 10 instants and sorceries, right, and then it's going to be a 20-20. And how hard can it be when you have 18 instants and sorceries to get a decent number by the time you get 5 mana out and have this guy drawn and ready to go? So on the surface, without even playing it, it looks like a fun deck. But is it fun? It kind of depends on the environment that we're in, right? Oh, I don't want to do that just yet. I want to go into Find a Match. I'm in the middle of one of the quick draws for Bloomberry. Doing some green and blue frogs right now. I was doing fine until Arena decided that I was only going to get the 2 lands in my starting hand, and then no lands for the rest of the entire match. Even in the quick drafts, Arena does that to me. It's really not fair. Hopefully that doesn't happen here. 4 lands already. And 3 of them are the special lands. They did a mulligan. They didn't like what they were getting. We could have let off with the Reckless Lackey, but I actually want to get Malcolm the Eyes down first. So we'll play this, put this down. And since it has haste, why don't I just attack right through the Mistway Spy? They didn't even bother to do any kind of disguise thing on that. Razzle Dazzle's another second spell synergy, so let's just put it down. Keep going. We kind of need to get into one of our draw spells in order to refill our hand so we can get to the point where we're going to be able to cast 2 spells. And they get to investigate for each person who loses, each opponent who lost life this turn, right? Okay, and then they get to create stuff. Not good, not good, and I don't have any of my... Gross. Okay, let's put this down first. We will attack with Malcolm. And I think we're willing to chump block with the Pyromancers if they want to attack with Teysa, but I don't think they do. I think they just keep sacrificing the clues and get these 1/1s with flying. Oh, never mind. I'm taking that. Hopefully they don't have a trick. Okay. I don't want to do this. Let's do this. Dealing a point of damage there. Fly over their head, get them down now 9 points, unless no, they didn't. They're not blocking. They can sacrifice this and gain life equal to its power. And they stopped. Okay, so we can do 2 spells this turn. But we don't want to do this because he'd be 0/0 and he would die. We're going to hold. We're not going to do anything, actually. That's very awkward. We've drawn our bomb already. And in an Izzet deck with that many instants and sorceries, we haven't drawn a single one to help us out yet. Hello. Why do I feel like there's a board wipe coming? Just in case there's not. Let's start with that, see what they do. Death Touch and Lifelink. Can they make Sir Ginger survive somehow after this? Oh yeah, there we go. They have all the instants and sorceries. That's not fair. They get to keep everything they have. And they're matching us. And they get rid of the token. Get rid of our other major creature. We are not doing well. Alright, I guess we're doing this. And we're stuck on defense now. That was a really bad turn for us. And this is like bad RNG or something. We've got nothing but creatures the entire time. This is a really poor balance of things to get. We've got a dead card in our hand for a legendary creature. I can't say it's bad deck design. It's just like, you know, it is what it is, right? It's, I feel like they're going to have another trick here, but we can't really afford to just sit there and do nothing. So we're going to lose our creatures. And I can sacrifice this now, because this doesn't have trample. And we'll get a card. Okay, let's do the Expel. Get rid of you. Bingo. Alright, I think we're done. I think we're done with that. If they want to attack me, then I can start attacking them, and we could get held to pay back as flashback, but then it would exile and we wouldn't be able to do anything with Manic. So we just bring this puppy down. And so we got one sorcery this entire time, and still the rest... I'm running out of creatures, aren't I? Nope, there's another one. That's funny. I can fly and attack. You know what? Let's bring this guy down now. That gives me a counter. I'll attack with that. They don't want a chump block. We're matching each other mostly on the lands. Really? They just give up? They had such a good turn for a while. All I had is one hell to pay. That's all that we needed to sort of make them go away. Let's go back in again. While we wait for an opponent, we remind you to like and subscribe. I'm Travis for the new people. You're at Tpull's Corner. We're going through all 10 of the pre-mades that Wizards of the Coast designed and gave to us. I had only deleted 2 decks from my deck list of 100, so I went from 98 to 108. Okay, I think that... I think this is their way of telling me I have to mulligan. You can't just give me 3 reds and a bunch of dead cards. What do we do with this? I think we do that to start with. We get rid of the expensive one. Deal them a point of damage. First blood is mine! You're gonna lose! These pre-made constructed decks that Wizards has foisted upon us, I mean, it's free, right? They just gave them to us to play around with. I'm going to skip the adventure because my last match I didn't get any instants and sorceries. So I'm skipping the value on that just to get something on the field. I like this card better, Stormcatch Mentor, but they didn't include those type of expansions when they put together these pre-mades. I guess we'll go ahead and attack because they're tapped out, so we get an easy point of damage in. But instants and sorceries, one less to cast for them. They took a long time to consider whether they were going to block or not. Okay, we can't do any counter spells on otters. They get rid of our creature already. So we don't have to worry about casting our second spell right now. It's just with one mana now because of that guy. I really could use something to get rid of that thing. We'll throw away the extra island for now. Become 3/3. We'll use this. And we will attack. Technically, the advantage is still ours. All otters get +1/+1, but they tapped out to do it, and they don't have their cost reduction anymore. They do have 2 mana. Ooh. 1 spell. Come on, you had your turn. They can do any color, so maybe there's a counterspell in here. We're going to get rid of the island to go draw 2 more cards. We get 2 things that happen here. We get a +2 and a 1/+1/+1 counter. There's a shock. And we'll just put that land down. That's both. I think we only have 2 demand answers in the whole deck, so we just hit them for 3. It looks like they still have a 1-cost spell. When we cast a non-creature spell, put a counter on it. Too bad. We are encouraged to go all out for this, so even if you stick something on that, you're only going to get 1 counter. Unless you have 2 different non-creature spells you can cast with the 2 different mana sources, and they do not. And our alchemist, this proved to be a good idea to not be greedy and not wait for this adventure. This is kind of like your kicker cost, right? But there's a definite plus or minus if you're going to save this card in your hand and try and get the extra value out of it. Much more valuable to put it down and just start hitting your opponent. Okay, 2/2 otter with prowess. They only have... Oh, hello. Wait a second. Why would you do that? It doesn't have... Why would you do the Monstrous Rage then? I don't get that. I don't get it. I don't get it. Do I get rid of the token, or do I get rid of this? I get rid of the token. One damage, we make the trade. The draw card is just a land, but we can use that with the treasure and get a new creature down. They have enough, right, for flashback. They can bring this in. Storm Taster's Challenge. Okay, 1 damage. They get an otter. They get 2 otters. Hello. That is not mana value 3 or less. That's a pretty big spell. I don't know why they would attack with that. Seriously, Arena? Seriously? 7 lands to 4, and all that they need is those 4 lands and their Monodorks to get done everything they want. And we are hurting really bad. No! Arena did me dirty. They get 4 lands, and that's all that they need to do all their spells. And yet again, we did get some instants and sorceries finally. We got like 5 of them. I have to chump block there just to survive 1 turn. And yeah, that's all we can do. Because we flooded out with just nothing but lands. That's a fun deck, Magic. Thanks a lot. So, this is the problem that I have with the way that Magic, the way that Wizards of the Coast does things, period. At least on the digital version of the game. Right? The way that they have configured their algorithm, they said, oh, let's fix things so you always get 2 lands at least in your opening hand. And then you do stuff like, oh, we're going to give you all creatures and none of your instants or sorceries for an entire match. And the next match will start you off with extra lands, and we'll just flood you out with lands, and who cares what else you get because it's not going to be enough, because you're just going to get tons of lands. This kind of variation is not the fun kind. We've got what on paper looks like a kind of interesting deck. Looks like it might be fun. What was that, a weasel? I missed my land drop now. Ugh. That's a sorcery, so I have to use it now. And I don't have 3 damage on anything here, so they're just going to bring it down again. They do get their land drop. What can I do here? I can kill a Resplendent Angel. Oh, hello. Look at that. Isn't that nice of them? They just got everything they want, everything they need. We do the shock first. We kill it with the Slick Sequence. We get to draw a card. We do finally get our land out of that. Oh, we have to go after combat. And now we got a 5/5 life linker we can't get rid of. And the duplicate Resplendent Angel we just got rid of. Great. Okay, we have 2 turns to turn everything around? Yeah, that's not going to do it. Wow, that's bad. That's just so incredibly bad. We're doing everything we can just to manipulate our device. Oh. Okay. Thank you, Arena. They outdrew us on creatures. They outdrew us on lands. Kind of showed the limitations of this deck already, didn't they? Just a couple of flyers. Just put out some angels every turn. We're done. It looks like they were trying to split the difference between a deck that works fast and cheap and something that could have some real synergies. And trying to split the baby like that, they didn't go enough on the cheap aggro, and they didn't do enough on the other side to be able to handle real threats. I mean, by turn 4, I really do need some way to deal with a 5/5 creature, and I just didn't have it. Okay, I need my lands. I think we just go ahead and put down another creature. This is probably looking to my opponent right now like an aggro deck. Cheap creatures, only 1 and 2. We can actually cast 2 spells next turn, right? We'll do the Steam Clean. No, this costs. I need 1 more land already, right? It only costs 1 less to cast if you commit a crime. And they get a 3/3 right away. And that's tapped. It does commit a crime. It's not the way I need it to be. They can sacrifice that and go get whatever they want. Okay, so we're just going to do this. We'll get rid of the token. So that gets rid of portion 2 and renders chapter 2 of the Enchantment Saga worthless. And then we'll see if they put down a creature to make good on chapter 3 next turn. Interesting. I keep missing my land drops, so I can't do the 2 spell thing. They're down to 8. Let me hold my ammo. I mean, they should be on defense. They shouldn't want to hit me. Right? Because if they don't get anything else out, that's 5 points they're taking just from creatures next turn. But at this point, taking 3 points of damage is not that big a deal either way. We made things difficult for them. Not really. Assassin's Trophy, that's a reprint card. But they found a way for us to go get a land. I feel like I need another mountain. So they kind of did me a favor right there, didn't they? Yeah, they did the math. Okay, let's try and get rid of you. That's a crime. Now we can finally cast a second spell for the turn. Draw 2 cards. Swing in for 3. And they didn't, whatever they had left, it wasn't going to be enough. So when you get a couple of quick aggro creatures out in the beginning, and you get some instants and sorceries to back things up, kind of works good. I don't think I've used this enchantment yet. Let's see, 3 damage to target creature and opponent controls. I think somebody's only used this on me once. I will have to investigate the use of that card. I think I only have 2 copies of it right now, though. Okay, so that's... so we win, and then we're back. Instead of 3 mountains, they gave us 3 islands, and all red spells. Forcing a mulligan, which I lost last time we did this, right? Man, I hate to lose Johan so early, but he's the expensive one. I wonder if this is going to be a mirror match. Is Thunder Salvo an instant? Yes, it is. So we wait. We see if they put down something that is more disturbing than a Reckless Lackey. They didn't have to mulligan. Storm Chaser's Talent. I think that's deadlier than the Reckless Lackey. I think we're just going to try and kill that right now. Technically, I probably should have just used Flick a Coin on it, but this is the case. See, we didn't really have a way to commit a crime here. We'll just draw 2. At least gets us to some good land draw. And Melik Reforged Researcher is looking good. Well, that's a good target for Flick a Coin. That'll give me something to do while I'm saving up enough mana to afford Melik, and it'll give fuel in the graveyard to make Melik even more powerful than ever before. In the meantime, I'm going to use my treasure now. No, wait, that's... I want to wait on that. I want to actually... I'm greedy when it comes to Steam Clean. On other adventure cards, I'm much more willing to go ahead and put them on the ground ahead of time, but the value of getting rid of a token or just taking a 3/3 or a 4/4 and giving me a tempo, that's worth holding on to this card for a turn or two. So we've got to worry about sorceries and instants coming back. Do we have to worry about counterspells? Let's start with Pyromancers. Test the waters. That worked. They have blue color too, so you got to allow a little bit of extra time for them to think about everything they're going to do. They can equip that now. So that gets them up to a 2/3. Can they pump anything up with the one remaining mana? Do we block this? They get a treasure token just for attacking. They don't attack. Okay. Well, in that case, what do we want to do? I think we just bring out the big one. We get the 2 there. We'll attack with the 3/4. We didn't use the 2 red mana. Nothing quite lined up that I wanted to do a second spell for the turn. But this should be good as long as they can't bounce it. Yeah, like I'm going to block that. You can have your treasure token. Whatever you're going to do, I'm not going to block it. So now what do you do? Why are you looking at my treasure? It's a lot of looking. They're not gonna. Will they at least do that? They don't really have an instant or sorcery yet to activate level 2. I mean, if they wanted to skip the value of level 2 and just go level 2 now and then skip it to level 3 and work from there. Oh, hello. Okay, you can have Mockingbird enter as a copy of any creature on the battlefield with mana value less than or equal to the amount of mana spent to cast Mockingbird, except it's a bird. Okay, except my creature, its power and toughness are related to the instant and sorceries, and you have 0 instant and sorceries, so they made a mistake. They didn't understand how that card worked. And we had a bounce spell we had been holding on to specifically for tokens anyway. We were waiting for precisely that sort of thing. I feel like we're still waiting for the fun to start on this deck. Like, I want to get out Johan to use Johan. I want to get out my bomb and use the bomb. The matches are ending before any of the cards that I want to have the most fun with are aligning. We have first strike on the ground, so don't need to worry about the 1/1 right now. They might have a combat spell. Okay, I'm going to do this. Discard 1 land. Okay, it's perfect for next turn. Opponent matches their land drop. That they have reach for that. I think we get rid of that. We get rid of that first, right? Okay, play the pain land. Go ahead and get rid of the one with reach. Attack. The advantages are, and we are close to emptying our hand and solving case of the Crimson Pulse, which we will then use to go full speed ahead. What did they do there? The railway, okay. 3, 4, not enough, not enough, not enough. Okay, so we're going to do this then. Change of plans. Play the land. Attack for 3. That has reach as well. Now they have 2 with reach? Dang. This is looking ugly. And that's a land. Okay. We'll commit crime. Draw the land. Play the land. Getting an instant sorcery off the top, is that what we really want to do? It's not enough. It's not enough to stop either of those. Let's just do this. Kind of gross, kind of gross, kind of gross. 2, 4, 5, 6, shoot. Okay, I'm going to pass the turn. I feel like we can't afford to block anybody, but you know what? 2, 4, 5. They can't really afford to come in and attack us either, can they? I've got a lot of lands. Maybe I can make this work. Okay, they're low enough on health that we have some time here. Instant or... oh, hang on. Put this down first. Instant or sorcery. Let's go get you. Then we go investigate. Get it right up into our greedy little hands. And we pass the turn. Man, we're going through a lot of lands. A 12-11. Very nice. They still don't attack. Okay, so what do we do now? 2 plus the number of other spells. Okay. We can make this work. 1 spell. 3, 4, 5, 6. 2 spells. Bump, bump, bump. Cast off the top because of Johan. 4 damage to you. And we hit a land. Absolutely not what I wanted to do. Draw a card. We're still not able to get this thing done because we have too many lands in our hand, and they still have something with reach that can block our flyer. Getting that many lands off the top of our deck, that's ugh, that's a bomb on the land. They can afford to attack with Ogier now. I don't have enough to do anything against him, and everybody else has trample. So you can see yet again threats. In the we just flooded out with lands. They have 6 lands. That's all they needed. We have all these lands, and we're still not able to get rid of things. I can put this down. I can draw. I can cause a whole bunch of nice, lovely things here that I can't get past his line at all. We can do 1 damage over their head. We can do 2 more damage. Auto pay with the treasures. And a backup Johan. And that's 5 creatures that we're attacking with, and none of them can get through. And we ended up with 9 lands versus their 6. How many extra spells did we cast? And they could afford to double block. We got them down to 3. I don't know if maybe there was a way that I could have emptied my hand sooner, but we can only put down 1 land a turn, and we were just getting way too many lands. We couldn't ditch enough lands to save our life. So, yeah, again, it seems like the deck is falling due to luck more than anything else. And just whether we're getting enough land or too much land. Or we've had to mulligan twice. I don't usually mulligan. Like, if they give me a dead hand, a lot of times I will keep it just for y'all to see what Magic does to me. Just to see how I'm treated on Arena. But this is standard. And we could die pretty quick here. Because we didn't have a 1-turn answer for the Rot Priest. And they have something there. I mean, we'll try it. We'll see if they have a protective spell. We're going to get another poison here. They usually have it. Yep, look at that. Snakeskin Veil. Not a problem. We're going to be at least 4 poison this turn. Another 3/3. And nothing in our deck that helps us take care of this. We can block the 1 Rot Priest right now. I guess we blocked the Beast? Oh, never mind. Perfect timing for Innkeeper's Talent. So, we lost last round. We're going to lose this round. Do I block? No. Just come on through. 6 poison. No way to get rid of the enchantment. Now that has Ward 1. And they gave me 2 draw spells. Completely worthless. I'm going to have to double block somebody. Just needed 3 or more poison counters to do that. They double block there. Well, they attack there. I'm going to double block here. And a 1/3 there, which makes it survive while they kill my creature. There's just no point. There's just no point. Another deck type against which this whole thing is completely useless. I don't think we're at 50% wins tonight. We're going to go one more. Again, on paper, looks like it could be a fun deck if you had a good mix. If you get the land mix right, you get a good mix between instants and creatures. If you get the balance of what you're normally going to expect when you play a physical game in tabletop, that kind of stuff happens more often. Really? Okay. So 6 lands and 3 spells. I feel like I'm okay getting rid of a land. And they just gave me another land. Okay. This is pretty bad. And even though I've got more land than I know what to do with, my opponent is ramping ahead of me on the land. You know what? I'm going to be greedy. I'm going to wait and see if they put down another creature. We're going to do both of those next turn, maybe. Or maybe we'll just put Johan down. They're starting off with a massive advantage. And I kind of wish I had my Devilish Valet. But that rotated out. Okay, so we do this first. We get rid of that while they're tapped out. We do this second so that we get to draw a card. And we still got more creatures on the field than we started off with to deal with. Ouch. And that's sort of like the perfect hand for them so far, isn't it? What can we do here? We can put you down. And we can deal 1 damage. And we can pretty much die. Yep. We need like a board wipe or something. You can see with the Bloom Barrow, it's really easy for us to get swarmed because we're not really aggro. It's, you know, I'm going to do one more while we're doing this. It's really sickening. You can't really do a mid-range deck like this where you're like splitting the baby. Oh, I've got some cheap kind of creature spells, but I'm not really going to go like full mono-red aggro. I'm just going to go kind of halvesies on it. And this, if I kill it, it brings a creature back anyway, so a shock would be wasted on it. We're going to be taking a lot of poison and kind of hoping that they don't have removal. this early. Look at that. That's just beautiful for them. Okay. Bring you down. Second spell, get rid of one of you. We can investigate. Okay, we sort of kind of stabilized at 4 poison. Opponent does not miss a land drop. And they just get the creature back. They just get it back. Wow. Look at all the cheapness on that. Now see, these guys went, everything costs 2 or less. That's going to be 8 damage. No blocks. I mean, if we're going to die, we're going to die. We're down to 7. We get a tap land among everything. We can get rid of this, and it'll just give us another one. So maybe I should have held it. And now I'm chump blocking, right? Just because of the poison itself. Poison gets us again. They got everything they needed. There's nothing that we can do here. We've got our balm for all the good that does. Alright, not fun. Not a fun deck. They gave us all the fun cards right there, but way outmatched. Way too slow. For an Izzet deck, this is way too slow. What were they thinking? Alright, this is it. 16 creatures. These guys didn't show up at the early, like, usually if you get your 1-drops, they have a good chance of showing up. They didn't really show up. Held to Peg kind of rarely showed up. That might have helped us if we'd gotten that. And again, here we got a lot of creatures, right? We got a lot of expensive creatures just there against the aggro deck. And you can see that we're having so much trouble with land management. Either we don't have enough untapped lands to do the two spell synergy part of this deck, or we're just flooding out where even where we have Johan, where we get to see an extra card on the top of our library, it's just an extra land most of the time, and we can't do anything with it. Whatever they were trying to do with this deck, they missed it. I think having 3 Seize the Secrets is at least one too many. I'd get rid of that to start with. And yeah, and it's amazing how many times we get the Eroded Canyon in our early, first 4 or 5 lands, that it's just, we don't have time. We don't have time for tap lands in this environment with Bloom Barrow and everything being so quick. And it's not, we don't even have to worry about mono red aggro right now. It's like mono white or Selesnya green white or the poison decks. You saw they've matched us up against 2 different poison decks already. And that's a rarity in and of itself. I don't usually come across more than 1 poison deck in an entire day if I have enough time to spend playing a lot of games on Arena. So, yeah, I don't know. Go ahead and leave a comment. Let me know what you would do to change this deck up, if it's salvageable. There are some fun cards. I mean, we had an Ill-Timed Explosion we never need to use when it did show up. This card would have been good to show up about 3 or 4 games, and it never did. And so this is the problem of only having this one type of board wipe in your entire deck. And there's not a whole lot of other cards that are really big mana value either, but I mean, a lot of what we were facing, sometimes it was the big green creatures, right? 5/5, 6/6 creatures, and we couldn't get rid of a 6/6 creature even with Ill-Timed Explosion in this deck. But I would rather have probably 3 copies of Ill-Timed Explosion and 1 copy of Seize the Secrets, and have more chances to survive the early game and all of the 1/1, 2/2, 3/3 creatures than draw 2 of these Seize the Secrets that are just no good to me to use that early in the game. So the mix on this is completely wrong. But let me know if you think I'm on drugs or something. Go ahead. We'll leave it here. As always, we like to thank our sponsor. We ask you to like and subscribe. Go ahead and leave a comment. Let me know what you think of this deck. If you've taken it out, if you've tried to handle it what your impression of it is, if you've had a different experience than I've had. And we will do the 10th and final pre-made deck next time. So thanks, everybody. Have a good one.